Hello, welcome to the Meeple Syrup Show, where designers discuss designing. This is episode number 34. Together we are better. Before we get to the topic at hand, we'll do our regular routine and talk about what we've been up to and what we've been playing. Let's start with Sen. Oh, no, let's start with Jesse.
All right. Oh, good. I have backup music.
Jesse and his dog.
Yeah. I'm Jesse. I think I'm the stand-in for Daryl today. And, wow, this is good. So I guess normally what you guys do is talk about the games that you've recently been playing. Unfortunately, I haven't done a lot of board gaming, but on May the 4th, which I learned was Star Wars Day, I played the Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG, and it was a lot of fun. I really liked how the sort of success-failure system could differentiate between significant successes with minor setbacks or failures with positive consequences. It was really neat. I had a lot of fun. And I was,
Nice.
A Chewie.
You were a Wookiee?
A Wookiee, yeah.
Did you get bent?
No.
Nobody bent your Wookiee?
Nobody bent my Wookiee, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Did you die with the Wookiee death of having a planet crashed into you? Because that's the only way you can kill a Wookiee.
Well, I didn't die, so that didn't happen.
Oh. I actually haven't played a lot of games lately, I have to admit. I've been pretty remiss on that thing. But I have been playing my own games, I guess, prototyping. We're using Tabletop Simulator on Steam a lot these days in order to get Godzilla done across 3 people. So Jay's out on the West Coast, obviously. Ed Bryan, our developer, is in Kentucky. So we've done it all in Tabletop Simulator on Steam. If you guys are game designers and you haven't seen it yet, just even take a look at what it can offer you. It's pretty cool. It's not that expensive. It's maybe $17 Canadian, I think, so 11, 12 US. And it can offer you a really good amount of stuff for that price in terms of prototyping and playing your games across with your publisher, perhaps, or your co-designers if you guys are living apart from each other or apart from each other geographically, or just with people around the world and friends and things like that. So that's what I've been doing. How about you, Jonathan? Have you played any games?
I've been doing a lot on Tabletop Simulator as well, and I got to say, if someone's hesitant to spend that little bit of money, find 3 other people and buy a 4-pack of it on Steam.
Right.
Save yourself a couple bucks, split it up. But yeah, I'm using that for 2 different designs right now as well. I've been playing a lot of the Dead of Winter expansion, trying to get that put through its paces.
Ooh, very nice.
Yeah, so that's been a lot of fun. I'm really happy with where that's at right now. I got to play a upcoming game called Elysium.
Yes.
From Space Cowboys, the guys that did Splendor. I won't talk about my feelings about Splendor because I'm not allowed to say things about it. But Elysium is very good. I'm very excited for it to come out. Yeah, and I've been playing a lot of storytelling games lately too. The Quiet Year, I've been playing that quite a bit lately.
Oh, good.
Stuff like that.
Excellent. So Suzanne, 425 Suzanne at 425 Suzanne at Twitter has been saying, we could do a Tabletop Simulator walkthrough. Someday we should probably do that, actually, on this show.
Yeah, we should do an episode on it, or you guys should.
Well, you can be here if you'd like.
we as in me as Daryl.
Oh, I see. Nice. Yes, you'll note that Jonathan has the hat and the mustache and the beard.
Yes.
And glasses. He is pretty much the American version of Daryl. Do you like baseball as much as Daryl does?
No.
Oh.
But for tonight, yes.
Oh, good. And we'd probably get Andrew Enriquez on the show as well.
Yeah.
He's the guy who really puts the simulator through its paces in terms of prototyping. So I guess we can bring our guests in, hey, because that's what we do here at the Meeple Syrup Show. We've got two awesome guests for you. We've got Christopher Chung, who is a guy that I've known for a long time now. He started off in the Game Artisans of Canada with this little game with a couple cards and a couple things that was called Flowers at the time, and it turned into this Mensa Select award-winning juggernaut we call Flowers. And hey, look, it's his publisher, Randy Hoyt, who is also a game designer. He made Relics Expedition. So welcome, Christopher.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And Randy, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Good. So let's start off the questions with you, Christopher. Christopher, how does it feel to win an award of the magnitude that is Mensa Select?
It's honestly still surreal at this point. My first published design, well, for real, the first signed design, first worked on out to the retail market, and then won such an award is crazy. It's absolutely shocking to me still, but I'm really happy that it's won. So that's so cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. Congratulations.
Yes, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Just as a follow-up question to that, are you yourself a Mensa member?
I am not. I don't think I have the IQ level required to join such a elite group, but I'm pretty happy to.
Does it make you a member? It should. You know, it should make you a member. We're going to petition them.
I guess I
Automatic
should be
membership.
a pseudo-mental.
Jesse, are you ready for questions?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm new at this. I didn't understand that I just actually carry on talking.
You just keep going.
No, dead air. People love dead air.
Well, I mean, okay. So, Randy, from the publisher's perspective, what does winning the Mensa Select mean for you?
That's a good question. I'm not quite sure what it's going to mean. A few different things it could mean. One, that more sales, more exposure, obviously. If you look at Amazon right now, it says lanterns frequently bought together with Castles of Mad King Ludwig, which is another winner. So I'm guessing some people have gone out and bought all of the Mensa games together. So I think there's some exposure that comes from it, definitely. I mean, a big part of it is just knowing that a whole bunch of strangers, hundreds of strangers, played your game and loved it enough to vote at #1, and that's a huge thing as a publisher. A very good, I guess, validation that you actually made a game that a lot of people are going to like.
What's the? Is there any kind of application process or anything involved with that?
Yeah, they've got it documented on their website. You fill out a form and pay an application fee to get in. I don't know exactly what they do behind that. If there's some filtering down process, there's some requirements around the game has to be available, and just a number of different criteria all listed out on their website. And then there was some time after we submitted it before they got back to us that we had been accepted into the competition.
That's very cool. That's very interesting. Are you entering, Chris? Are you going to enter? Are you planning on entering lanterns into any other competitions? Like, is there anything else in the works for it?
I'll probably leave that up to Randy and Scott, just because I'm still getting used to the industry, so I don't know what the huge awards to apply for. I do know that there's the speed of the shares, but I think we have to meet a few requirements for that before we can apply to that. But yeah, I'll definitely leave it in their hands. I know it's going to do well in those competitions. Well, hopefully at least.
Yeah, great. Speaking of Scott, Randy, the question that some people have been asking on our YouTube feed, by the way, if you're watching and you want to ask questions, the YouTube feed is probably the easiest way. Twitter at Meeple Syrup is also a good way to get to us. So they're asking, how did Renegade actually get involved with you guys in order to do the whole conglomerate thing?
Yeah, co-publishing is what we call it. If you look at, like, Machi Koro has 2 publisher logos on the box. It's a similar kind of co-publisher relationship. So I licensed the game from Chris, first of all, and then started developing it. Got the artwork done, put it on Kickstarter. I've heard Scott say in the interview when he saw it on Kickstarter, he was jealous he hadn't published it or found it himself.
Nice.
So we met at BGG-Con. We played Lanterns and talked shop for a while. And he asked me what, as a very tiny new publisher, what some of my struggles are, things like cash flow and distribution, market reach. And we talked quite a bit there. And then afterwards we followed up and he said, I can help you with some of these things that are a challenge for you. And so we partnered to co-publish it. So we split the duties and the profits that publishers normally get out of that relationship.
Interesting. And has it panned out well so far? The relationship?
Oh, absolutely. He definitely has a lot of the connections in the industry that you want to have when you're a publisher. So he's been able to get it in front of the right people, going to shows that I wasn't going to, and I've been to shows he hasn't been to. So there's been we're able to kind of work together to get some of that stuff moving forward. And yeah, he's been a great help already. I mean, it was his idea to submit to Mensa, just as one example.
Right, because Gravwell did well for them,
Yeah.
right, at Mensa as well.
Yeah.
Jesse, you're next up to Chris.
Yeah, Chris, Randy had mentioned that they licensed the game and then did development with it. What was the experience like for you developing a game with a publisher, and how is that different from when you were developing the game on your own, playtesting with us feeble designers?
I think it's a really interesting experience for me because as a designer who's still fresh-faced, I never had a signed game before, and playtesting the game with friends and family, and they all seemed to love it. I knew I had to take the next step, but I was not able to take the next step myself. I never had plans to take it to Kickstarter or to self-publish it in any other means. I wanted it to be in front of a publisher. So when I talked to Randy on Twitter, he was taking a look at one of my other prototypes for a game and decided, what, he would play with his son, and they really liked it. It was not the game that they wanted to publish at that time, but he asked me if there was anything else I'd like to show him. Funny enough that Blossom, or now it's called Lanterns, was still on my shelf, so I gave it a whirl and said, hey, I got this game you might want to take a look at. So he did, and yeah, from that on, it's been a really great relationship working with Randy. He knew his stuff coming from Relic Expedition and started learning the trades of Kickstarter, and I was really, really sure like him take it as one of his own games.
Very cool. So Randy, what's your schedule looking like now with Lanterns doing as well as?
We've got a couple other games we're working on. Nothing official to announce. But yeah, just doing some initial blind play testing of these. I've signed 2 games, and we've been doing a lot of the testing and development just on our own. Me working with the designers, also with friends around here that are my development team. And we sent the first one off for its first blind test. John, I think you were aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
John surprisingly showed up at the first blind play test. So it was great to get someone to finally read the rules and sit down and play without me walking them through it and explain it and getting good feedback there. We're going to be I'm going to be at Gen Con. Lanterns will be demoed at BGG Fam and Origins and Gen Con coming up. I'll be at Gen Con running Lanterns demos. And hopefully some demos of one of these 2 games we're working on. We'll see if we can get one of them in a good enough shape to demo this summer.
Very cool. Chris, I'm gonna open my box right now just to see what it looks like. I just got this in the mail a couple days ago, but my mail sits in a box around the corner from my house, and I'm lazy because I very rarely leave my house unless it's for my patients and work. So if I don't have a patient to go see, I don't leave the house. Oh, it is! Hey, look at that! So here we go. This is Lanterns, and it's shiny, shiny cellophane. Very, very nicely done.
Awesome.
And I remember this game when it was flowers and blossoms and all that stuff. So I'm really interested in seeing what this looks like on the inside. Oh, and here's where we can see here, right on the side, there's the co-publishing logos. We got Foxtrot there. We got Renegade there. 2 very nice companies. one of whom is represented today by Randy, and then we're opening the box. And what we have in the box is rules, some nice punch board here. Is that 2 mil or 3 mil?
I think it's almost 2 mil.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they punch out quite nicely with no ripping. I've already my test for how well a thing does is I drop it and I see how many things fall out of it, and then yeah, it's it's okay. A couple things fall out, but the really good ones they all fall out. So this is a good one.
That causes you a lot of trouble though when they fall out before they get in the box.
For sure, mid packaging and stuff like that.
Or they get damaged in transit. Our last game had that issue.
Oh yes, that could be bad.
In the box or missing before they got in the box.
You're missing out on so much pleasure when you do that, though, because that's like the people who take bubble wrap and like twist it all at once.
I will do that. I think the box came with some bubble wrap, so here I go. Ready?
Oh, nice.
No!
Oh yeah, man. That is. Oh, I need a cigarette. That's so good. So some nice wooden tokens. And were these? Because I don't really look at stretch goals and things like that because I back friends' games and things like that. So stretch goals are wonderful. Are these stretch goals the wooden part?
Yeah, the wooden part were stretch goals.
Excellent.
If you look at the punch board, there's a little strip of white where those tokens would have gone.
Oh, right.
Stretch goals. So.
And you didn't even have to do them. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then this is actually probably what I was looking most forward to seeing was how you turn the cards from what they used to be, because they used to just be flowers on cards, and then turn them into more Asian themes. So, Chris, being a fellow Asian person as myself, how did you feel about changing the theme from what it originally was, which is, for those of you who don't know, a big flower garden thing, into, which is kind of Asian in a way, because we like arranging stuff, into this whole Chinese lantern, Japanese lantern thing going on? Thoughts?
Well, I actually have to be honest with you. I was hesitant at first, just because I never thought of the game having anything else but flowers. And so I heard from a few playtesters that they wouldn't play the game necessarily because it had such a not an exciting theme per se. But flowers is one of those universal themes where I said, hey, it could be applied to a game because it's a welcoming theme. So when we started negotiating the contract, he said to me, what about a retheme? And I was, oh man, what do I say? I don't want to turn down my first contract because of a retheme. So I talked with a couple of game artists and friends, including you, Sen.
Oh yeah,
and,
I did that. I was there.
You guys said, yeah, you guys said go with it. And when Randy said it would be about lanterns, my mind instantly switched from flowers to vibrant colored lanterns, and I was pretty much sold. So.
Excellent.
So back to Randy. So when you develop a game with a designer like you did with Chris and Lanterns, how closely does your development process involve the designer, and is that an important consideration for you when you're thinking about signing a game?
At this point, I'm pretty fluid on whatever will make sense to the designer, basically asking them how much they want to be involved. Chris had some other games he was working on, and I took the lead. I took the development and sort of ran with it. I was constantly sending Chris stuff back, so he sent me a print and play that I used to play it at first, and I took over those files, kind of created them again in Photoshop with a spreadsheet to generate the different colors, and kept sending him back print and play. So he would continue to play test. We would talk. We played online using Roll20. We'd play online probably once every couple of weeks together just to go talk through changes. We tried some crazy things too that I was looking back through emails trying to get ready for this. I'm like, I can't believe we thought that would ever be a good idea. This crazy stuff we threw, and you forget that you even tried stuff. We did a lot of crazy things, and he'd print it and play it, and we'd play online and just continue to work. I definitely would say I drove the development process. I was the one constantly doing the kind of the development jam sessions with my development team.
What was the craziest variant that you tried that didn't make it in?
Oh man, I think Sen might have even played this one. At one point, when you mashed on a platform, you got points instead of getting these favor tokens.
Yes, I did play that.
Yeah, and then at one point, I don't even remember why, as the points for dedications were getting lower, we tried this scale that, as that happened, the points for the matching on the platforms was getting higher.
Right.
And
Okay.
so, like, in late game, like, you get, 5, 10 points just for matching on a platform. And it's like, what? What? That's crazy. It got very out of control very fast. It was clearly one of those things that we just got the numbers way off and totally the wrong direction, and it's not incentivizing players to do what we want them to be doing at all.
Yeah, Chris, with going through all those changes, was there anything in the game that you didn't want to? I mean, besides the theme, but gameplay-wise, mechanics, was there anything you were really dead set on that you had to fight for, or was it a pretty good working relationship with Randy, where you guys had a lot of back and forth with the design process?
It was definitely the latter. The one thing that I was dead set on, and that was from conception of the game from day 1 and day 2, was the perspective mechanic. So when the tile was played, everyone in the game would get a lantern card associated with their side of the tile, and that was the one thing that I would not change for the world, essentially. I really loved that part. I thought it was a really unique part of the game, and I wanted to see it shine. And Randy actually loved that part of the game too, so it was great that he believed in that part of the mechanic, and it stuck.
Now, I actually asked you, Chris, I don't know if you remember, on our first call, I said, what was the one thing that you weren't happy with the game, and what is the thing that you would not want me to change? And the thing that you said you didn't want me to change was that you would make dedications before you place the tile. That was the one thing that was really important to you.
Yeah.
And in the development process, I kept having people say to me, "Hey, you just got to do this. Let people make dedications after they get their tiles, because that's how so many games work. You get your resources, and then you buy stuff." And I stuck with Chris, and I stuck with it because it just felt good. Because the whole reason that works is when you place a tile, you can't use what you give yourself until the next turn. So to be able to, you can use the stuff people give you right away, but the stuff that you give yourself, you have to wait a whole turn to use. That just seemed, even though it was a bit backwards of the way a lot of games work, it was really important to sort of the core of the game. And Chris told me that at the beginning, and I stuck by that.
Good for you. I think that's a really, really good point, that there's got to be a lot of dialogue between designers and publishers. Jonathan, as a designer who is going to become a publisher, just take some notes. You need to talk. Taking notes. Randy, wondering, Bill Corey from our YouTube feed has asked, how much did the theme matter in the design and development process, and did retheming affect anything mechanically before the game went to press? So that kind of goes out to both of you.
Yeah, so the way that the theme works is I definitely wanted a theme that I thought would be marketable, and I didn't feel like the flowers would be as marketable. And as I started trying to come up with another theme, I kept trying to just look at the mechanics. When you place a tile, what could you be doing? Could you be putting a mine on an asteroid field? Could you be putting a medicine in a patient? What are all the things you could be doing? And none of those things ever really felt right. They always felt pasted on that way. And what I finally did was I took a step back and said, okay, when people play this game as an abstract game, how do they feel? And they said they felt things like they felt relaxed, even zen-like. They felt like there was a nice, smooth flow to the game. I took all of those adjectives that the gameplay itself produced and thought, what theme has all those same attributes as well? So it wasn't so much about trying to match the narrative with the mechanics as it was trying to get that feel right. Now, a lot of games that are sort of theme first and very integrated theme, of course the mechanics feel like the theme because they are essentially, they grow up together. In this case, retheming the game, we had the gameplay and the theme both produce similar feelings, but kind of independently in a way. It wasn't because you were putting lanterns in the lake that it felt calming and relaxing. The mechanics sort of just felt that way already together. There wasn't a lot of changes that were made to fit the mechanics to the theme. It just had a very, they just sort of felt right and went together. There was a lot of work to figure out around the narrative okay, if you're putting a tile down, you're getting cards, you're turning those in for points. What could you be doing? So there was a lot of work around that to match the mechanics with the narrative.
Chris, what's your perspective on how the theme change changed the way you looked at the game and the game mechanics, and how that affected its development?
I think when Randy suggested the lantern theme to me, I think my culture kind of kicked in at that point. Just
Mine did too.
I'm Asian,
so you know.
we're not. But during that Skype call, I was like, okay, this could actually work out. I mean, from a marketing standpoint, we could tie on the whole Asian perspective of it. But to me, the theming really fit what the game wanted it to be, and it wasn't just this abstract that anything could be based on. My mind worked itself to think of lanterns and how peaceful actually it feels and plays. So it's there's definitely no problem with retheming the game, and it actually translates well to what we have now. It's like people are really commenting on how lanterns is such a simplistic yet beautiful and engaging game, and I think we really hit a good note with it.
That sounds like the recipe for an instant classic, like a modern classic game. One of the things that I like about Lanterns is that it is really simple to play. It's really simple to teach, really simple to play, but it's engaging all the while, and it's very nice to look at on the table. In fact, we're going to take a look at what it looks like on the table here. If I can call up my screenshots 1 second. Hey, there we go. Okay, so there's a box shot of Lanterns where the nice box is right there, and you see all the cards splayed nicely. These tiles look very nice when they're all kind of put together in the patterns that you're supposed to make, and it's almost hypnotic. And then you can contrast that to this, which we'll show you in a second, which is the sort of the is this the original, Chris?
No, this is Randy's work. So
okay.
The original had more floral-based colors, and they actually had the names of flowers on the sides of the tiles.
Oh, right. Yeah. 1 second, I'll get that one up. Hold on.
Oh, no.
Yeah, this is the Chris original right here, baby. Ah, yeah, right in the corner there. So as you can see, all the cards had the sides that you would try to put together with the names of the flowers on them and values on the inside and all that kind of stuff. And then you had the stack of cards that had all the flower types on it, etc., etc. And that turned into this bottom thing here, which was a much more abstract looking, which then turned into the game we know today, pretty much, right? Randy, who did the graphic design for you? Was that your brother as well?
So the artwork was done by Beth Sobel. She did all the illustration, and most of the game is just illustration, so she sort of did the graphic design work as well. I had a few different people help at different stages of the process. My brother did the logo. Christina Major helped out with the favor tokens and the card frames. And then Jason D. Kingsley got involved with the rule book and some more on the dedication tokens.
With regards to art and rulebook layout and things like that, Randy, how much did or Chris, I guess, how much were you involved in the process? Did you kind of have say on many things, or did Randy kind of bounce stuff off from you and ask for your input?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. When we were making sure that the lingo was correct and we had all the steps that we needed to make the rule book clear as possible, then he'd take it to Jason to lay it out. I was more of the confirmation side of it. He pretty much had the game set in mind, and if there were any errors, I would take a look at it. But for the most part, it was pretty near perfect from the first set that I looked at.
So we have some more questions from actually from my brother, Jake Cormier, who is above me because he's like a good foot taller than me. So, Chris, with regards to the art and the rule book and things like that, how much involvement did you have, or did Randy kind of just do it and then you sort of saw the overview and kind of put your thumbs up and gave him the stamp of approval? Or was it somewhere in between where it was a mutual kind of working thing? What do you think, Chris?
I think it's more the
50-50,
former.
60-40? So more that Randy did a...
70-30-ish.
Okay, so 70
Um,
Randy, 30 you?
70 Randy, 30 me, maybe a little bit less for me. Just because he's had the experience working with rule books as part of Relic Expedition, and so he also has the final say. So I didn't have to make changes on my end. But the way that they chose to do the half-page layouts, and that's a really cool way to outlay the rulebook. I thought most games in my collection are probably the standard 8.5 by 11 portrait layout, but the landscape layout is really cool.
Neat. And another question from our feed goes from Suzanne to Randy. Randy, how much effort did you guys put into making the game colorblind friendly?
Mhm. So from the very beginning, it was important that the colors not be only identified as colors. With Relic Expedition, we have 6 treasure colors, and it was a lot of work and multiple color proofs from the printer to make sure that those colors were distinguishable. We would test that game in like playing in low light. We'd turn off the kitchen light and just have the bedroom or the dining room light on, and seeing if we could play in the dark. So I knew from the beginning we wanted to really push that, and so having the lanterns be different shapes as well as colors was important. And Beth, the illustrator, suggested that each lantern also have different arrangements. So like the white ones on the tiles are laid out sort of in a certain pattern, and the orange ones are laid out in a certain pattern. Part of that is so that when they match together, it sort of feels like a bonus, because you get a bonus if you match. So there was that. But also so that even for people that have some color blindness or slight color blindness, could still distinguish those. So I mean that was important from the very beginning. That we just do our best. We ran it by some folks, some people. We didn't do formal testing on it. Miri didn't bring a room of colorblind people or do intentional testing on that. But we did from the beginning aim to make it friendly in that sense. And I got some feedback from a guy who was one of the judges at Mensa, and he said that he is red-green colorblind, and he had no problem playing it. And he had a lot of trouble with a lot of the games that were there. So he just wrote me to thank me for making that a priority. And we can do better. I mean, I think we can really do find people. I mean, now my network's much bigger with people that I know that I can run prototypes by to make sure that that's really going to work. We just sort of had that in mind as we developed this, but I'm definitely going to push harder on testing that as we go forward.
Following up on the thing you just said about feedback from the Mensa testers, did you get any substantial feedback or discussion or comments from the award adjudicators? And if so, I mean, was there anything that was insightful as to what aspects of lanterns made it stand out from the crowd?
We haven't got that yet. We're supposed to get that sometime after the competition, so it was just this weekend. And they say that they'll let everybody know the results within a week, although with Twitter they were announced for that day. And then feedback a few weeks after that. I've had some people reach out to me, just say, hey, send me a message through Kickstarter or an email and just say, hey, I played your game, and here's what I loved about it so far. Haven't seen all the results from people who voted for it and against it, so haven't really got anything like that yet. But hopefully we will get some idea of what it is. I think the spatial aspect, that was one of the things I thought would appeal a lot, that the way you play the tile, the direction you face the tile has an impact on what everybody gets.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, have you started working on the expansion yet?
Expansion. Well, actually, we had Randy, his son, really wants an alien invasion expansion. I haven't thought of that all the way through, unfortunately. Um, we've had a couple of people mention that the game should be players, and just making that work in my head. It didn't really actually come to fruition just because with 5 to 6 players, the perspective is a little bit jarring at that point. So nothing on that front. But any expansions, we'll definitely go through Randy. And I actually saw a solo variant that one of our great backers posted on BGG today. So that's something to look forward to try for me.
Very cool. I love it when the community gets involved like that. Speaking of the community, we have more questions from ours. Chris, how did you like being your first time through also being a Kickstarter? How was that? Was that nerve-wracking? Was it fun?
It was fun. It's definitely a more interesting and involved process just because I could see the development work that Randy was doing and kind of like the homegrown and grassroots support that we've been getting throughout the campaign. And that's comparing to, well, I still haven't been through that process of traditional publishing where they wouldn't go through a Kickstarter, just fund the money in order to make the game. So to me, the transparency that Randy and I shared and the way that Kickstarter backers were so enthusiastic about the campaign, it really is an awesome experience, and I would love to definitely have a game kickstarted again. But hopefully with the success that we reached with Lanterns.
Right. So, Randy, did the Kickstarter campaign affect the development of Lanterns at all?
Not as far as the game mechanics or the gameplay was involved. So we had that pretty locked up. I think the only thing I would say about that is towards the end, which was we were getting ready for the Kickstarter campaign, we made one final change, which was to cut the number of cards available in a 2-player game from 6 to 5. And some people who were backing and that I knew on Twitter, I said, hey, can I just send you a prototype that you can test? We know that this works much better with 5 cards for people who've played before. We want to make sure it's not too stressful if you've never played before. That was sort of the only thing that really was solidified during the campaign. We did have a couple of things for artwork. So the platform tiles, we had commissioned one similar flower platform for all of the platforms. The flower being a nod to Blossom and the game's origins.
Right, very nice.
And then, but we had backers nominate different platform artwork and vote on those. Yeah, so originally the game had 11 of those, and then we swapped those out for a dragon, a panda, and the koi fish. Those were the ones that were nominated and voted on by backers.
Mm.
Dragon, koi, panda.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And so we did actually shuffle some of the colors on those tiles. We wanted to put the blue and the orange lanterns on the koi fish. So there's a little bit of shuffling the numbers, I suppose. But we had the same number of oranges and blues. They just sort of swapped around so that they looked better together on those platforms.
Suzanne had a question that other than the fancy sticker on the box, what benefits does the Mensa Award do to game? Do they help you market it? Do they put you in any of their newsletters or magazines?
Mm-hmm. Well, they definitely help promote the game more. I mean, just a press release with the names of the winners has definitely gotten the game some attention. And I think for some consumers, knowing that it's a Mensa game will help, or they'll hear about it because of that, or if they see it at a retailer and it's got that sticker on it, they might be more likely to buy it. I'm not yet sure. I've never had I've never published a Mensa Select game before, so I'm not quite.
Now. Hey, you did it.
Yeah, maybe in 6 months I'll know a little bit better about that. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely all there. They're tweeting about us, mentioning us on Twitter, and just there's promotion and exposure from their side to help the game.
I was talking to my friends who run Lions Rampant distributor in Canada. So they're nationwide and they're huge. I've been to their warehouse. It's ridiculous. And Rose and Ross, they say that the only awards that actually increase your sales to a significant amount are the Mensa Select and Spiliar. Those are the only two for hobby games, and then there's some parenting awards that will get the children's games out. But for you, Mensa's a good one. Hey, speaking of Spiliar, will this ever come out in a German language edition, perhaps? Are you working on some co-publishing that way?
Yeah, I'm definitely talking to people in Europe about different foreign language versions. It's too early to say if any of those will come to fruition, but hopefully so. I mean, I think the game is language independent, so that should help.
Yeah.
It's a very approachable game. Not a ton of components, so hopefully it's a good fit for a few publishers in other languages.
Great.
So to shift the topic back to the game design side of the process, Chris, what do you think the most significant change that was made to the game during development was? What was the biggest thing that happened between deciding it was going to be themed as lanterns and kickstarting it?
To me, it was the scoring. Scoring was always a troubling part of the development process. I knew that each combination you would make, so the 4 of a kind, the 7 unique, and the 3 pairs, those would always have values tied to them, but they were static, so it doesn't matter which flowers you turn in the combinations, they would just give you 5, 7, and 10 points. The only thing was, at the end of the game, it was decided when someone hit 40 points, and then everyone else would have one final turn to try and beat the 40 points. And some people liked that, some people didn't, but I didn't have a clear way to actually change that. So I pitched it to Randy as it was, and he decided, okay, the scoreboard needs to go. So he decided on giving dynamic score values to the combinations, and so they became dedications, and it fit magnificently. So it was just a matter of balancing for the final product.
You know what? I'm just punching everything. It reminds me of Hanabi, just the pieces, just the colors and everything. So have you got that feedback yet? That hey, this looks like Hanabi on tiles. I don't know why, but it does.
Yeah, it's a Hanabi vibe, people say.
Yeah,
Although
yeah.
they're quick to say the game is quite different than Hanabi, obviously, but yeah, it has a similar vibe to it.
Yeah. Randy, I'm going to ask you a question about your process in terms of how you came to become a publisher. Because originally you're a designer, right? You didn't start this whole thing to be a publisher,
Yeah.
and you started with Relic, which we'll bring a box shot of now, just so everybody knows this is what Randy's initial claim to fame was. It's this bad boy right here, Relic Expedition, a jungle adventure game by Randy Hoyt, as you can see there. And so this was where we actually first heard about you. This was the thing, and then you decided to start publishing. Why? And why other people's games?
Yeah, so when we started this, my brother and we had the idea for the game. I designed the game and developed the game, and he did the artwork. And the plan was always to go to Kickstarter. The main reason for that was to have full creative control. So as a designer, as an artist, my brother wanted to have sort of a 50s pulp feel. It's sort of printed on halftones like comic books from the era, and all the pieces have sort of that feel to it. And so to keep that creative control, we were going to self-publish it and go down that whole path ourselves. Well, as I did that, I really just fell in love with the publishing part. Taking a game from prototype that's fun to play to a product that you can sell in the market. And there's just a lot of creativity that goes into that I think is often not appreciated. And that there's just a lot of work to be a good product designer. And so I felt like I wanted to go down that path again. That seemed more fun to me than designing a game from scratch. I had a few other ideas that I sort of put together, but going back to just pen on cards wasn't quite as fun as having just finished working with all this beautiful artwork for Expedition. and just decided that I was going to try to find some other games by other designers and see if that would be a good path, just to start sort of later in the process and take one all the way through and see if I liked that as much as I thought I would.
Chris, what's next from you? What are you working on now that this is trying to hit the market and people are loving it?
It's hard to follow up on the success of a game like this, but I'm definitely continuing a couple of prototypes. I've come up with a 3 to 4 player game involving simultaneous role selection and worker placement called Crookstown. It's basically crooks trying to escape with gems in the vault, but it's a very take that kind of game where you can obfuscate what your opponent's plans are by bumping them out of line and not letting them get the gems that they want, and you having first choice. So there's one, and then Penny Stacks, which I developed a couple days ago, kind of a 2-player stock market simulation where it's kind of like Lost Cities in a respect. So you're abstractly trying to influence the price of stocks and then make sure you capitalize on your opportunity before your opponent does.
Interesting.
So, Randy, turning back to the publishing side, when you're evaluating prototypes, since you said that you really enjoy the sort of development and creativity involved in that, what do you look for? What kinds of things indicate that a game has promise for you?
Well, with Blossom or Lanterns, the first time I read through the whole rulebook, I thought that perspective mechanic, where you place a tile and everybody gets what's facing them, was so cool and unique. And I thought that it could be a good hook. It's something you could easily describe on the back of the box or give in a 30-second pitch about the game. And so that's what, just looking at the rules, made me want to play it. The thing that I look for the most in a game, this just sounds sort of cliche or cheesy, is just that it's fun. And the thing is, it doesn't have to be fun for the whole time. They just have to have these clear moments where you're like, this game is worth developing. This game is so fun. There's going to be moments like these that people have when they play that I need to bring this game into existence. Sometimes it's thematic hooks. Sometimes it's mechanical hooks. But there's got to be something that hooks me first, whether it's a mechanic or the theme, and then playing it, having it to be fun. And with Lanterns, as Chris said, I mean, when I asked him what the one thing he wanted to change, he said was the ending, and that was definitely the thing that we spent the most work on, was how do we make this game end right so that you're incentivized to do what's fun kind of the whole time. And so, yeah, I mean, it was really fun in the middle. The very first time I played it, I knew on that first play, I was like, yeah, I want to spend some significant time working on this game.
Chris, the title of this episode is Together We're Better, and I truly believe that in my line of work as a therapist and a teacher and all that kind of stuff, that we do things better when we're involved with other people. Does your absolutely super positive experience with Randy make you think, no, you know what, I'd rather do this alone and I'm going to self-publish or go to Kickstarter myself? Or are you going to start, not start, but keep on dealing with publishers even though your percentage is much less? Your royalties are much lower, obviously.
It's definitely the latter. I do want to work with publishers. I think it opens doors to me to get more games out, and the more people kind of enjoy Lanterns, I guess the side benefit would be, oh, you're the guy who designed Lanterns. Maybe I should look at your game. But it's always for me to kind of work with someone who's enthusiastic about games as much as I am and wants to take a product to market. And unfortunately, I don't have the expertise to take a game to Kickstarter itself. Will I say never? No. I think there's definitely something down the line that I may pursue by myself, but I definitely need to surround myself with the team that knows what they're doing. And so by working with publishers right now, I get to know more about the industry, and I get to trust my games in capable hands.
Randy, do you prefer to look at lots of different designers, or do you like to try to work with, or, I mean, I know you're just kind of starting, but do you like to keep a relationship with one or two designers, or kind of shop around a lot of different stuff?
I imagine going forward we'll be working with a bunch of different designers, maybe some repeat designers, of course. I mean, and you see that with bigger publishers. They get some designers who work with the same publisher over and over. I mean, I think it's mostly going to be about game fit for me. I mean, I've talked to a number of designers who have 5 different games that are a wide variety of games. And where I'm at right now, I am kind of focusing on a niche of games. And so I can say, well, that game was really fun, but it's not one for me right now. So let's take this one out of your line and let's do that one, and let some of the other publishers handle some of the other ones in your line. I mean, at some point, I could see myself growing the line to have a bunch of different games. But right now, I'm really focusing on sort of a vertical.
So what is that niche that you're that you really want to focus on?
Yeah. So our tagline or kind of slogan right now is beautiful, engaging, and approachable games. When we looked at the market when we started publishing, we saw sort of a gap between games that are either way too light, way too filler games, or way too heavy. And you imagine trying to pull a game out and teach it to family members who don't play games a lot. A lot of the games are really too shallow and cartoony, or then they get too heavy. I think a really good exception to that is Ticket to Ride. And we wanted to make games sort of in that thing that there is some complexity to them, so that when you finish a game for the first time, you feel like you've accomplished something. You don't feel like you've just played a kid's game. You've played, you feel like you've really accomplished something. I think part of what makes Ticket to Ride such a great game experience is that it's bigness. There's this big board and there's lots of pieces, and when you finish it, even though the rules are simple, you feel like you've achieved something. And so I don't want to make kids games, but it's that sort of family games that the kids are playing up with the parents is the way I like to phrase it. So like we let our kids play Seven Wonders, and we have an 8-year-old, and he plays Seven Wonders, and he beats us sometimes, and that's a really good and satisfying experience for him. It's not us playing down and playing kids games with him.
Very interesting. Just quickly jumping on that note of your motto, can you please tell me how this is anywhere near beautiful?
So this is the first prototype of Relic Expedition.
Yes, it is.
It is. Let's see if I can. So the Catan roads are the snakes. The Catan cities are the tigers, which became panthers when we said it in South America. I don't even know what the boats were for. I can't even remember.
I can't even guess
what that was. So yeah, I mean, when you prototype, everyone tells you prototype quickly, and that's definitely the case here. I even skipped the solo play. I just got some friends that were adventurous and said, hey, let's just try this. The game was totally broken in that if you didn't have a machete in the original version, your game was completely worthless. And 2 people did not get machetes, and their game was terrible. But the other 2 of us had a decent time.
They had such a good time.
It was a decent time. The game was still clearly broken. I don't even remember. We didn't have the win condition figured out until like 15, 20 plays in. I don't remember what we did. We probably just played for half an hour and said, well, that was fun for the 2 of us. I'll go back and play some more. But you got to make prototypes so you're not afraid to change as quickly as you can.
Good point,
Absolutely.
good point.
So, Chris, I mean, Randy gave us the sort of Foxtrot motto and niche that he's trying to cultivate. Is there a motto that you have for your designs, or a common thread other than that you designed them, which links your designs together?
I think it's fun and simplicity at the forefront. Kind of what Randy said, but it was a long time to actually realize that. The first game I ever worked on, I just remembered the name recently, Tribal Clash. It was a hybrid deck builder, tic-tac-toe.
Tic-tac-toe?
What is it? No, rock, paper, scissors. Sorry, the wrong term. Even I forgot the game.
That's awesome.
It had mana, it had battle, influences. I'm kind of like worrying off of Magic success, and it went nowhere. I just, it took a while for me to realize that this game wasn't ready for anything, and I remember bringing it to the 2012-2013 HammerCon and really getting it ripped to pieces. So
Yeah, sorry about
that was a
that.
good. That's all right. That was a really good learning experience for me. But I quickly pivoted into doing lighter games, and so when I shifted my head into thinking, what could I play test quickly with friends and family, and what would they enjoy? That became kind of my mindset going forward, and so now I try to stick to lighter games. I'll definitely try to work on some heavier games later, but to me, light games are always kind of a cool little thing to work on and try to make them into real games.
Randy, I have a really exciting battle tic-tac-toe game I'd like to pitch you.
We can talk after this. Since you've published a game before, I'd be willing to take a look at it.
Now, do you have any advice on new designers that would like to work with publishers?
Yeah, I think that the one thing I would say, and to me, when I started and thought, oh, I want to have full creative control over a Relic Expedition, is that to say that creative control comes at a cost. There's a ton of time, a ton of money, a ton of energy spent on being a publisher, and that's great if that's what you want to do. Most of the designers I meet don't want to do that. They really, even ones that have run one successful campaign and realize how much work it is, they really just want to design games. So I would just say, really look at that. If you do want to run a business, if you want to figure out tax forms and classifications and punch board sizes and all that stuff, there's a lot of work involved in all that. And if you want to design games, then you can. And I do think that working with a publisher, you get someone else, a co-designer or a developer, someone else who's going to care about the game as much as you do. You can play with your friends, you can play with other designers who will give you critical feedback, but the one thing I think that a publisher can bring is that they really get invested in the game as well, and having multiple people who care about the game as if it was their own is really hard to do another way, and having a publisher can really add that. When I wasn't sure if I wanted to publish another person's design, that was kind of my biggest concern, was can I really care about someone else's design as much as I do? And I absolutely can. With Lanterns, I just played it that first time and thought, I want to work on this and I want to make it my own. And I think the amount of effort I've put in, I wouldn't do for someone else's game unless I felt like it was part of me as well. And so having that as a designer can be a really great boon, to have someone care about it with experience help you design it. That's not to say you can't Kickstarter, you shouldn't. I'm glad I did, because I would have had no idea that I loved publishing. When I started, I thought I was in that same, like, oh, I want to be the creative designer with the full creative control. But it turns out, after I get through the whole process, that I love the publishing part probably the best.
And a real quick follow-up, because people on the YouTube channel are asking it, any plans for a deluxe edition of Lanterns? Maybe some nice Bakelite tiles, or...
As far as plans, no. Thoughts? Yes. I saw the Hanabi Deluxe Edition and thought, oh yeah. And the 100th anniversary Ticket to Ride edition. It's like there might be some room here. Let's get through the first print run, maybe the second or third print run.
Maybe, yeah.
And maybe win the Spiel des Jahres, or maybe just get nominated, and then we can start thinking about a deluxe edition. I hope we can.
Yeah, Chris. Last question to you. What is one piece of advice? One piece of device? That was weird. One piece of advice that you can give to designers on how they can make the relationship between designers and the publishers really work, really gel, so that together you are better.
I think it's creating a relationship. I think the working relationship that Randy and I share is really one that we're friends as well as business partners at the end of the day. But we made a game together that we can tell about, like, ages from now. So I think being transparent with who you're working with and making sure that each party knows what their responsibilities are when it comes to the game, and nailing that down, and finally being not only interested in self-interested in the royalties and whatnot, but being interested in what you create and send to market. I think creating that relationship is really the biggest thing you can do between the designer and the publisher.
That's excellent feedback. Most publishers want to work with people they want to work with, right? And if you make yourself somebody who's hard to work with, that doesn't make them want to work with you anymore. So that's it. I mean, this hour just flew by. We're going to stick around for the after show. Hopefully Chris and Randy both might stick around and chew the fat with us. Or Stefan Brunel from Asmodee likes to say, shoot shit with the rest of us. And that'll be fun because we'll talk about lots of, maybe non-Lanterny, non-Mensa stuff for us non-Mensa members. So next week we have Brad Talton Jr. coming on to talk about his latest thing that's on Kickstarter, Millennium Blades, and J.R. Honeycutt, our good friend from Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, who is their community manager for Level 99 Games, coming to talk about that aspect of the game world. And Jesse and myself will hopefully have a chance to play Millennium Blades because I have all 600 cards ripe and ready to print out and cut. So we'll get that done, and we'll come up with some juicy questions for Mr. Talton, and we'll have that next week. So thanks for showing up. We enjoyed all the questions that you guys had for us. Loved having Chris and Randy. Congratulations, guys, on the Mensa Select Award. I'm glad that Canadian game designer won it, and Randy, I'm really happy that your second game out of the gate, and bam, you're already killing it on the scene. And yes, we will be just having the after show on next, and that's about it. So stick around. If you're on YouTube, you can find us. If not, we'll announce it on Twitter and share the link on Friday. All right, so this may take a little bit weird timing because I have to turn off my mic and get all the sound ready and all this stuff. So just wait 1 second, and we'll get the credits running, okay? Just hold on. Everybody kind of, I don't know, hum a merry tune while I do this.
This is not merry at all. I'm not merry. Hum harder.
I'm not humming.